Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Ferris.
This is Phil Ferris, and welcome to our show. Never Too Late for Fitness Radio provides answers and straight talk about fitness, nutrition, and healthy lifestyles for people over 50. Our goal is to educate and advocate health and fitness strategies that help you live a longer, healthier, and happier life. One of the themes in this show is developing strategies for winning the game of life, which basically means putting more life into your years as we age. But some troubling statistics indicate that many people over the age of 50 are going to be challenged to do this. The recent statistics point out that almost 40% of baby boomers are overweight. 72% have one or more chronic diseases. 52% lead a sedentary lifestyle, and 25% have walking disabilities that make it difficult or impossible to exercise. To shed some light on how we got in this challenged state of health and what we can do about it is my guest, health advocate and nutritional lifestyle expert, Dr. Maureen Sullivan, or as her patients like to call her, Doc Mo. She is a chiropractor with a PhD in philosophy of holistic nutrition, as well as a degree in quantum neurology. Her mission is to help people find the real cause and underlying reason why they don't feel well or enjoy great health. By correcting the underlying reasons, a person can grow physically, spiritually, and emotionally without the intervention of drugs and needless expensive tests and surgeries. It's also an added pleasure to have Dr. Mo on the show because we've been friends since high school, and she's married to one of my best friends. So thank you, Doc Mo, for being on the show today.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you what you're doing to help the 50-year-olds plus.
All right.
It's a very needed thing.
I think so. Now, let me start out with the questions. Although you're a chiropractor, your real passion is nutrition and how it can be used to help people address the underlying causes behind their health issues. Can you describe the types of clients you work with and why they come to you?
Well, Phil, people should know that there are really a lot of answers and hope for anyone who wants to get well. And I know that you like to work with the 50-year plus, but it really doesn't matter how old someone is, and it doesn't matter if they're 60 or 70. You can still get well and lead a better life how many ever years you have left. Most of the clients I work with are actually people who really put their health before anything else. They'd rather spend their time, energy, and money on buying good food, getting exercise on a regular basis, taking whole food supplements and not synthetic supplements. They realize that their kind of happiness and positive outlook on life and success, and even success in their relationships, is really directly related to their choices and behavior. So in other words, the people that I see basically do not feel like victims. They may have a specific health problem like insomnia, arthritis, acid reflux, sleep apnea, osteoporosis, all the diseases that we see in people over 50, and the ones that you mentioned earlier about the problems that people over 50 are having, and I'm sure everybody's well aware of that. Another one that I really like to work with is people that are pre-diabetic, which pretty much is a big lump sum category. So the kind of person I see is someone who doesn't believe that they're a victim or that someone else or someone outside themselves can cure them of all their ailments.
Okay.
There's a real cultural authority out there that people buy into, and the people that I see don't buy into it.
Okay. Now, when you said when they first come to you, are they already predisposed to say, I want to be healthy, but I'm pre-diabetic? How can you help me? Or when they first come to you, how do they present themselves?
I would say most of the people already have a problem, maybe 1, 2, or 3 problems that they've tried to correct through drugs and sometimes even surgeries, and haven't been helped. And so they're looking for another way, an alternative way to get out of the jam they're in.
Okay, so that they have a health issue. They aren't accepting that the failure that's out there, that they haven't been resolved. And so they're looking for something else that can help put them in control. Is that a reasonable assessment?
Yeah, I like to think of it as if you're driving down the street and a red light goes on in your car. The answer isn't to put a bandage over the red light. You want to find out, your car's not going to get better doing that. You're going to end up on the side of the road. And unfortunately, that's where most Americans over 50 end up. We're the 38th best country in the world to get old in, and that's a sad fact. It's very sad, Phil.
Yeah. So they come to you. How do you go about helping them?
Well, what I mainly do is I like to use blood labs to help people because people know about blood labs. It's a very common thing to do. They've done it with the medical profession all their lives. But I look at the blood work in a totally different way. I look at it in a functional manner. In other words, if I see 2 flags on their blood work and then I go through it, functionally, I can detect 10 or 12 things that are underlying those flags and haven't even showed up yet that are starting to foment in their body and what can be causing symptoms and problems.
Well,
so
why aren't they picked? I mean, you say the doctor will look at it and only give 2 red flags, and you'll find 10. Why do you find more than what the typical doctor would find?
Well, medical doctors are trained in a totally different manner. It's not a functional manner. So when you look at something functionally, the people should know that when you get a blood lab done, that there's a curve. You're in a group of millions of people, and there's a bell curve. So if you're at the very bottom of that curve on either end, you're not going to get flagged. So okay, here's your flag. You're not ready for there's something there, but you're not ready for a drug yet. When that flag shows up, then that's the big red flag that you need a drug or whatever it is that they're going to do to help you.
Could you give me, because I like concrete examples. Can you give me an example of what, you may have pointed out to someone that would say, okay, here's the red flags that says you're not ready for a drug yet, but here's some issues that may be causing some of the symptoms. Let's address them. So could you give me a specific example?
Okay, so if you just take a red blood cell count, okay, or there's different counts on blood works. Just take a red blood cell count. So if that's not in the range where it shows up as anemia, it could mean that you're dehydrated. It could mean that you're iron deficient. It could mean a number of things that are already starting, but it hasn't showed up that you have a full-blown anemia.
And if it doesn't show up full-blown anemia, the doctor's not going to take any action because there's no red flag.
Right. I recently had a real interesting case where someone had a full-blown anemia, and they were getting ready to tell her she needed a bone marrow biopsy to see what was causing this. It was going on for 1.5 years. Now, a bone marrow biopsy is a real scary test. If I had to have a bone marrow biopsy, I'd be very concerned. They stick this big needle in and they get your bone marrow out. And after looking through her chart and seeing there wasn't else much there, and she was a person that kind of took care of herself, it turned out that a diuretic she'd been taking for 1.5 years was causing her anemia.
Wow.
And her hematologist didn't even know this, Bill. So these are the kind of things that are happening millions of times a day.
Okay. And that's why your focus is on identifying the underlying cause of the issue rather than just the symptom. Is that
right? So having being a chiropractor, that's kind of the subculture, but being a person who's very versed in medicine also, I know when someone over 50 is sitting across from me or I'm talking to them on the phone, I want to know what medicines they're on, because that's the first thing you rule out as to why they might be having a problem.
Can you? You mentioned the one with the diuretic, which is causing it. Can you give me another example how medicines can cause symptoms that can cause doctors to give them more medications or more treatments?
Well, sure. Someone could be taking a statin that has been having a lot of muscle pain and fatigue, and instead of working with removing the statin or helping them with their lifestyle so they can get off the statin, they'll be given a drug for pain and fatigue, which will then cause another problem, which will then be another drug. The average person over 50 is on 5 different medications.
Okay.
And no one knows, after 1 or 2 medications, Phil, nobody knows what's happening. Nobody in somebody's body.
Because of the drug interactions, how they interact with each other and with your body?
With each other, and every person is different. You know, one drug may affect somebody some way, another one may affect someone another way, and then when you put 5 in there, nobody knows what's happening.
Yeah, that's a little, it's, I guess we put doctors on a pedestal figuring they know this exact equation, but I know that in working with my doctors with AFib, which has certain medications, and they'll say, well, which one's going to work? We don't know. What's the dose? Well, we'll try this. And then it's a lot more trial and error. And if you don't, die from it or have an adverse reaction, that's good. And sometimes there are bad reactions. And they say, oh, cross that off the list. And we can't use that because of this. So as you get in, you start realizing just how much of there's a lot more art to it of adjusting it than we'd like to expect as a patient, figuring that the doctor knows everything. And he just knows statistically what's been going on with other people.
Yeah, and nobody knows everything, Phil. And I see what's happening in the industry and in the medical industry, and even these people that would love to look into things and see how things go. They don't have the time, basically. We're seeing somebody every 6 minutes. You can't help somebody seeing everybody 6 minutes because that's all the insurance company's going to pay, for you to make a living. It's very disconcerting, to say the least.
Okay, well, let me go back to how you work with patients. Once you find an underlying cause, how do you help people address it?
Okay, I work with a company. I'm a distributor of a certain whole food nutritional nutrients. I don't call them vitamins and minerals because they're not, because they're made from whole food. This is a farm in Wisconsin that's been there 95 years. So most of the things that I would recommend to somebody would be made from whole food, and this would go along with their, any lifestyle changes or food changes, which is really the most important thing. But say something that would show up on someone's blood work is they have not enough stomach acid. Okay, so these are causing other problems. If you don't have enough stomach acid, you can't digest protein. So now all of a sudden your red blood cells aren't looking too good because you're not digesting protein. So you would give something to them called hydrochloric acid. So you always want to start from the top, the upper digestion. Chinese medicine knows that. Western medicine doesn't. You're only as good as what you can put onto your body.
Okay.
So I would give them something that would help their upper digestion. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. Because if you're not digesting something, and, you may talk to people about chewing, these kind of things. Don't drink 10 glasses of water every time you eat. Also, who knows what someone's doing that's interfering with their upper digestion. But there's a lot of acid reflux out there. And it's not coming from too much acid. Most people think it is. It's coming from too little acid. In other words, they eat something, they don't chew it, and it just sits there. And now the acid from the food is what's causing the reflux. Their body isn't working so well that they have too much acid. I mean, let's face it, Phil, nothing works better after 50.
So true.
All those little cells that produce acid in the stomach aren't all of a sudden becoming, let's produce more acid, now that we're 50 years old. That's not how it works. So They need help with their upper digestion. That would be a good example.
Okay. And then the fact that some of the other issues will come about that, if they're not digesting it, they're not getting the nutritional value of the food because it's not breaking down besides the acid reflux. So that may have other implications in terms of energy, weight gain, weight loss, other kinds of symptoms because they aren't getting the nutritional value of what they're eating.
Well, and it could be a big system. This goes on from age 20 to 50. All of a sudden, you've got a 50-year-old in front of you with 7 fractures in their back from osteoporosis.
Okay.
And, most people, and I've had patients with this, I have a client who had 7 fractures in her back, and she was practically on a walker, a lot of drugs. They wanted to put her on the biphosphonates, which can make your bones even more brittle, even though it might take away some pain. And I said, she wanted some help. 2 years later, she's riding her bike. She's going to yoga. She's doing all kinds of things that she thought she would never do because she'd be on a walker or a wheelchair. And the fractures are still there. But her skeleton over a period of 2 years has gotten better than it was 10 years before, because you grow a new skeleton every 6 years.
And what are some of the specific things that you outlined for her to do to get those kind of benefits?
Okay, one of them would be, a big change in diet. Lose the sugar, lose the alcohol, improve the upper digestion. You have to do weight-bearing exercise, even if it's just 20 minutes 3 times a week. Those are the kind of things that will build a new skeleton. And maybe a couple of supplements. Okay. I use the same thing I would give to an arthritic dog, I'd give to a person.
So I rate as high as a dog if I've got arthritis, huh?
No, Phil, I'd rate you much higher.
Okay. Let me broaden the scope just for a minute, because it kind of gives us a context of the issues we're facing. And that's, as I mentioned in the intro, and we've kind of alluded to, our aging population is facing an epidemic of chronic diseases. And most of these people will say are lifestyle-generated diseases. So how did we as a nation get in such a sorry state of health, from your perspective?
All right, from my perspective, I could say, 4 words. It's all about food. It's all about the Industrial Revolution. Hundreds of years ago, people got killed by bacterial diseases. They didn't have all this stuff we have now. This obesity epidemic and this diabetes epidemic wasn't there, nor was the heart disease epidemic. So people are lured into this belief that people are living much longer. And in my mind, none of that's true. Sure, people might be living a little bit longer, but they're living in nursing homes and aren't really even there. So I think it all comes down to basically food, Phil. That's what's happening. And the biggest problem is this pre-diabetes. Your grandkids are going to be lucky to live as long as you unless things change. And it's a sorry state of affairs, I'm afraid to say. So what's specifically, what are the issues with our food? I mean, it tastes great and it's everywhere. Yeah. Okay, well, there's only 3 foods. There's proteins, there's fats, and carbohydrates. That's all. That's our entire food supply is made of that. Everything else is broken down into whatever. So all people have to realize when they eat something, is this a good protein? If you're eating animals that are from confined animal feeding operations or contained, where these things are shot up with hormones and antibiotics and fed all the wrong kinds of food, then that's going to make you real sick. Because all that toxicity is in that animal's fat, and you're eating it. So over a period of years, you're going to get sick. The number one thing in my mind would be cancer. Okay. Because of hormones and antibiotics that they put in these animals. So if you want to eat a good protein and you're a protein eater, some people are vegans, vegetarians, fruitarians, whatever you are, at least find the best quality that you can get.
What would be an example of best quality? Because obviously there's a lot of people out there that don't know what's good quality and bad quality. I mean, you look at McDonald's and you say,
this is where it comes down.
It's got 12 grams of protein. It must be good.
Yeah. Well, this is where you want to, decide where you want to spend your money. Okay. So say if I'm eating 12 ounces of meat a week, or if it's bison or chicken or whatever it is, if it is not from a good source, it's going to make me sick. So I go to the best source I can go. I go to a farmer's market, and I know the guy there. And every month I go and spend about $100 on good protein and put it in my freezer. So, that's, but people don't know that. They think if they just go into the regular grocery store where they're buying this stuff, once you have this kind of food, you can't believe the difference in the way it tastes. And it's the same way with fats and carbohydrates. You're either eating a good carbohydrate or a bad one. And most people are not active enough to eat a lot of carbohydrates, because that's sugar.
Okay.
And the same with fats. Fat's really important because we've all been lulled into this thing that fats are bad and don't eat any fat and sugar-free this and fat-free this. And, it's not how the body works. If you go back even thousands of years, human beings were made to eat good fat, but it has to be good fat. It can't be trans fat or fake fats, which is in all these processed foods.
Okay.
So this is what's making us sick. The food is making us sick, and then you go and you get a symptom, and then you get poisoned by a drug that has nothing to do with making your food better.
So you haven't fixed the underlying cause, but you perhaps deal with make the symptom go away, at least temporarily. But
yeah, my symptom's gone, but you're still getting sicker. If that cancer's in there, it's still growing. If those bones are getting weak, they're just going to keep getting weaker and weaker.
Okay.
So you can't fix something with a poison. It's impossible. You have to fix it with nutrition. I have one thing I would like to tell people is that everybody should have a blood sugar monitor in their kitchen. And twice a week, they should wake up in the morning. It takes 15 seconds to check your blood sugar. That's it. And it's totally painless.
Why would that help people?
All right, that would help people because big problems my blood work panels is pre-diabetic. Insulin resistance. In other words, the main fuel that your body is working on, which is glucose or sugar, is not working anymore. So that is the main predictor of disease, is how well your body handles sugar. Because down the line, there's so many things, it's just like eating the bad fats. If your body can't handle sugar, then you're going to become diabetic. And then all the diseases that go along with that.
And so by monitoring your blood sugar before you're diabetic will give you the red flag early to say, whoops, something's going on in my body and I'm not handling sugar very well. So maybe I should do something about it.
Absolutely. That's the bottom line right there. If your blood sugar, you wake up in the morning, your blood sugar is 105, you better start getting the sugar out of your house because you got a problem. And by the way, it's so addicting, Phil, that most people that are sugar addicts, which is myself, I can't have sugar in my house because I'll eat it. Not even if it's a Kind bar with 3 grams of sugar. Okay. Most Americans are addicted to processed food and sugar.
And when you talk about sugar, there's people look at how much sugar is in there, but now there's different labels of sweeteners and sugar alcohols, and you also have processed carbohydrates, which get turned into sugar. So people kind of get confused about how much sugar they're actually putting in their body based on if they just look at the labels on the nutritional labels on the food. So they can.
Yeah, if it's got more than 5 grams of sugar in it, don't eat it.
Okay.
Basically, people eat yogurt and they think it's good for them. It's like eating a Snickers bar. There's like 25 grams of sugar in their yogurt. But they think because of the advertising that it's okay, or they need a probiotic or whatever. But sugar is insidious. It's in everything.
Okay, so it sounds like the way you help people is you help to first of all identify with their blood work what issues are going on in their body, And then the solution is for them to change the way they eat. And that may mean being inconvenienced by going to a food market or to get good sources of protein, as opposed to going to McDonald's or going to a Jewel or Safeway, whatever they buy their protein and vegetables, to make sure that they're putting good fuel into their body. Is that?
Well, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. However, you could get away with all your vegetables from somewhere else. They don't have to be perfect. Organic vegetables are very expensive. Okay. But when you start talking about that protein, or if you're eating animals, you better make sure they're from a good source. That's the biggest problem I see with food.
Okay, so make sure that your protein source is a good source, is a good one. So that's something that you can control. Yeah. The other is to take sugar and eliminate it, because even if you aren't diabetic, you may be pre-diabetic, or and the idea is to find that out sooner rather than later, so that you can change your lifestyle before you have to start taking drugs.
Right. I mean, no one's ever going to be perfect with this, Phil, but you have to think of it. If it doesn't have a mother or didn't come out of the ground, it probably isn't good for you. I go to Walmart and I look in people's baskets. I'll go to the Publix. We have a Publix down here. We don't have Kroger's and Jewel's. Everybody's basket is loaded with things that aren't even food. I mean, you could take them home and put them on a counter and they could stay there for 6 months and nothing would happen to them. That is not food. It has nothing to do with human health. Nothing. And this is what people are eating, and then everybody's surprised that everybody's sick.
Okay, so when you work with clients, you do a blood workup, and then how do you work with them? Do you just can you kind of describe a little bit how that relationship might be? Because I know you not only work with people in Florida, but you work with people all over the country. So how do you work with clients to make sure that they're doing the things that are putting the right things in their body, so that their body can heal itself?
Okay. Well, I'm kind of a purist, and I like to keep things very simple. So I don't get into recipes and all this kind of stuff, because most people eat the same thing every day. Most people are not at their home cooking and making all these fabulous meals every day. It just isn't happening anymore, unless they're a chef. So my feeling is that people need the basics. And when we come to that, when you look at these proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, the number one thing that helps you digest, or has to go on each time you eat 1 trillion times to get something into a cell, is magnesium. And along with that is oxygen. So I may help people with oxygen and magnesium first. I know that sounds crazy, but I talk about transdermal magnesium. Your doctor can't tell you if you're magnesium deficient, because you can only really tell is if you take a swab, inside your cheek and get some tissue, because all the magnesium in our body is in the tissue. It's not in your blood or in the serum. So I might just say, here, do this transdermal magnesium for a month, and I want you to get something next to your computer that you're going to use, a simple little device you can get on Amazon that's going to teach you how to breathe, because most people don't even know how to breathe. And I know that sounds so simple, but it's powerful, powerful stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I have one on my desk right now. I use it every day. Breathing is huge. And every time you talk to someone, oxygen is so critical. I mean, it's the first thing they put on you when you get to the hospital, right?
Right.
Everybody knows how important oxygen is, and nobody's breathing, and everyone's so stressed out that it gets even worse. It's like we're being chased by a lion all day long. And that's not how it's supposed to be. We're only supposed to be chased by a lion for 2 minutes. Not for all day long. So these are the kind of things that start with the poor health. is, you have to throw, when you're not breathing right, all of a sudden you get a little bit, there's more stress involved. And so all these things, so I might give somebody a few supplements to help their upper digestion and then tell them how to breathe. And I might put them on some magnesium first because that's a big deal, especially for hearts, Phil.
Okay.
You may be interested in that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Heart disease. Most heart attacks are caused from no magnesium. But
right.
You're not going to hear that from the cultural authority.
All right.
Okay. I know that sounds very kind of general, but it's very true. I bet if you check most people that have heart problems, which I've had myself, has to do with, these kind of things. Maybe oxygen too. Maybe poor breathing habits, magnesium, and probably throw some bad food in there and what else.
Okay.
But there's always a cause. You just have to keep looking and keep looking. Sometimes it may take 3 to 5 years to find out what it is that you're doing or not doing that's causing the problem.
And that's why you talk about there's no magic bullet.
No, because everybody's different. But everybody needs the same nutrients.
Okay. And it's just finding out through their blood work to find out what's going on in their body so that you can make the correction necessary. But it's stuff that they can do themselves.
Right, it's things they can do themselves. And if they're taking synthetic vitamins, I usually take them off that too, because there's another whole radio show you could talk about synthetic vitamins and how people are gobbling these up by the millions and they're doing nothing. And as a matter of fact, they can make you worse because it's another foreign substance that your body doesn't know what this is.
All right, Maureen, how would someone know that they could benefit for working with you? So what would be the things that say, okay, maybe Maureen has something that I need? What would be some issues that they should be thinking about?
Are you talking about what kind of symptoms they would have or what kind of things they've been doing?
What kind of mindset? So if someone's sitting back, could I benefit from working with Maureen? What kind of mindset should they have, and what kind of things would they be experiencing? You mentioned the magnesium, so I'm going to be very interested in finding out. Let's take a look at that, because that's not a question or an issue that was raised by my cardiologist or my doctor, and so I want to take a look at that. So that for me, that's an aha. So are there other things that generally speaking, if someone's there listening and saying, gee, that's good information, or boy, I want to work with Maureen because I have this, or I want this.
All right. I probably have, 20 things I could tell people what they should do that I found over the past 30 years that it took me 2 or 3 years to find each one. And I'm in the business. So you can imagine how difficult it is to sift through the cultural authority to find out what's real and what can really help people. But the person has to be willing to make a change and open their mind.
Okay, so the first sounds criteria is mindset. And
right, they have to be willing to say, I am causing this myself. I just don't have the answer yet. Okay. Everything that they're creating in your life, everything that you and I create in our life, we are creating. So we just have to keep looking for an answer. Whether, the answer for some people could be their cardiologist. But the answer for most people is an underlying problem. It could be that they do have too much stress in their life, Phil. It could be that they're eating very poorly. They know how to eat better, but they're too lazy to eat right. Maybe they don't have the information about what is right to eat, as far as proteins, fats, and carbohydrates go. So they have to understand at a very deep level that they're causing their own problems.
And that's a big...
And willing to make changes.
Yeah, it's a big mind shift, because we usually go into a doctor and say, give me a prescription, and now I'm no longer responsible for those things, because now I have the prescription of the doctor, and the doctor is taking that responsibility off my shoulders, as opposed to, no, it's me that's doing it. As a matter of fact, you have some specific expectations that you outline for your people if they want to work with you.
Right. I don't want people to think that, they're going to come to me and I'm going to give them this magic supplement from the Standard Processed Farm in Palmyra, Wisconsin. Sure. Is it going to help them? Yeah, but no, they have to make you can make the nutritional changes, but the behavioral changes have to be there too. And like I said, I don't give people recipes. If everybody just got a copy of Forks Over Knives, and I don't do things. I mean, you can get a Forks Over Knives app. It's a book that tells you how to eat basically really good carbohydrates and proteins and fats. It's a vegetarian book, but all you'd have to do is throw in a little bit of good protein if you like protein, and that's all you'd have to eat from. That's how simple it is. I mean, you don't need all this fancy things. It's not fancy.
Okay, well, you've kept it very simple. You're responsible for what's going on in your body. There are indicators that we can look at to pinpoint what they are. You can recommend ways to address it, but ultimately people have to make the decision that my health is important enough to change my behavior that caused it in the first place.
Right.
And as I was looking at your website, you said there's 3 things you expect of all patients. One is regular exercise, 5 times a week, eat healthy 90% of the time, and lifestyle changes, which is change the things that got you where you are, whether it could be just as simple as change your breathing patterns. So those are...
It would be basically learn how to breathe.
Okay. Learn how to breathe properly.
Yeah. And I'm changing my whole website now, as a matter of fact, Phil, to, I don't have that website is going to be much simpler. I'm honing it in now. But those 3 things are very important. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not a person, I don't want any victims or someone that's going to call me up and go on for 20 minutes about what they've got. It doesn't matter what you've got. You know what I mean? What you've got is what you've created. And you can, because you've created it, you can create something else.
That's a very powerful message. And if people want to get more information or contact you, where should they go, Doc Mo?
Well, because of the amount of time this takes, I don't take a lot of people, Phil, to be very honest. I don't really want to do more than 6 blood labs a week.
Okay.
So people can call me, and if they want to do this kind of thing where they want to take control of their health, they can either email me at doc@docmo.com, or they can text me at 561-346-8883. And what I would do is I would get back to them and give them a complimentary consultation for 10 minutes to see if we have a fit. And I can tell by talking to somebody for 10 minutes whether I can help them or not. As to how committed they would be and how much they understand what I'm trying to say.
So this is not something for everyone. There's someone that says, I'm ready to take control and I need someone to guide me with good information and that'll work with me together. But I got to be willing to take the action on my lifestyle.
That's right. And, hey, I'm like the concierge guy, right? Once somebody gets hooked up with me and they text me, or you could hire me just to do your blood labs, or you could say, hey, I want to talk to you once a month and you tell me what to do and we can continue on from there. And I'll answer your texts in that month. If you have a question about something, I will eventually get back to you. It isn't just like, oh, here's your stuff, goodbye. If somebody wants to keep going and understand what this is, and by the way, I'm the supposedly expert here. I've been through many things myself too, Phil, just like you have. I've weighed 175. I weigh 135 now. I used to be a smoker. I don't smoke anymore. I used to drink a lot of alcohol. I don't drink a lot of alcohol hardly at all anymore. So I used to eat a lot of bad food. I don't do that anymore. So I've been through it. This isn't like some kind of a, swim coach that doesn't know how to swim.
Right.
So I want people to know that.
Yeah, because each person has their own journey. They just need someone that is informed enough to help them look in the right direction, as opposed to what they've been conditioned to do.
Right, Phil. The cultural authority, Phil, is humongous. I look at people almost like I feel sorry for them. I really do. That they haven't, been able to take a path to see what's really going on, because most people are leading their lives. I've been lucky enough to be passionate about this and have the background, education, and curiosity to try to figure it all out. And hey, I may change things in a year if I find something new. I may change it tomorrow. But I'm always looking and trying to find the people that have the best information as to how this is all working.
Well, Dr. Mo, I want to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your experience, and more importantly, your curiosity and passion for finding answers that people can actually use and take control of their health and their fitness, especially as they, get past that 50-year mark. So again, Dr. Mo, thank you so much for being on the show.
Phil, thanks so much for having me, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
My pleasure.
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Ferris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.